Hi, I'm Suzy Malhotra, and you're watching Face to Face. Face to Face is an interview-based programme where we invite members of our community and our friends to spill the beans on their life and what they're up to at the moment. Our guest today would ordinarily need no introduction. As his female alter ego, Vanessa Wagner, he's colourfully graced all our media, whether it's promoting an internet provider or an uplifting bra, to featuring on every network on television in a range of programmes such as Beauty and the Beast, Insight, and of course Mardi Gras. Here in Melbourne, he's most notably renowned for his work that he's done with HIV community organisations, and certainly in Sydney and in the country, a lot of work with Indigenous communities. Most people here will obviously remember him from his recent appearance as a housemate on Big Brother, but more about that later. Welcome, Tobin Saunders.
Thanks, Suzy.
Firstly, let me apologise for the weather. I know it's not our fault, and I'm sorry it's raining and it's cold.
No, it's traditional Melbourne weather, and it's a nice change from the constant beautiful days of the northern rivers of New South Wales.
So where thank you very much. Where are you living at the moment? Are you in Sydney or?
No, I live just north of Byron Bay,
Okay.
so I'm pretty close to the Queensland border.
Okay. And what are you doing up there?
I'm chilling out, living with my mother, and leading a less stressful life.
Fantastic. I think people must be very surprised to see you here as Tobin. Why are we sitting here talking to Tobin instead of Vanessa Wagner?
Probably because of the exhaustion factor. Doing a lot of performances, a lot of charity work as Vanessa, and just the whole process of dragging up is very time consuming, a little bit costly and exhausting. And I think since Big Brother appearance, it made the public realise and myself realise that Tobin in his own right is quite interesting as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll explore that one certainly later on.
Well, we hope I'm interesting.
We'll have to find out. Obviously, Big Brother, something that came along very recently. You're out there in the media. Everyone knows who you are. They know you both as Tobin and Vanessa because you did reveal both sides of your personality there. But this isn't the beginning of your career by any stretch of the imagination. You've had a very long and I believe a very colourful life before now. When did you start as a performer?
Oh, I did do a really dodgy nativity scene at a neighbour's house across the road when I was living in Perth.
Was that filmed?
No, unfortunately. There could be some really bad old snaps though. I was involved in the University of Western Australian Dramatic Society. My family moved from Sydney to Perth. My brother was involved in the local university drama scene, and I played a sperm in a local friend's play, and then I also did a show or a number as Grace Jones at their Dolphin Awards. So that was kind of one of my earliest performances. From there I was accepted into a statewide theatre trial, I don't know what you'd call it, training project, and I enjoyed that for a while but got out because it was a bit strange. Moved to Sydney, squatted, bummed around a bit, took photographs, read a lot, and then attended public dance classes, got into a dance school in Adelaide, studied dance, danced for several years in Sydney with a group called Dance Camp, and then went on to create the Vanessa Wagner character and throw dance parties in Sydney, and then continue on with the work I've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years, which, as you've mentioned, is anything from kind of high-profile television gigs to grassroots community charity work.
Well, certainly with Vanessa, how did she come about? I mean, did you just wake up one day and go, love that dress my mum's wearing, I'd love to put it on and put some lipstick on? Or
No, it wasn't like that. I think I've always been a little bit of a show-off, and I still sometimes describe myself as a professional show-off. One of the people who I met at dance school was very much into Lindsay Kemp, Michael Clark, and that whole kind of mid-80s. Wasn't really drag, it was costume. And when we lived in Adelaide, we found ourselves quite bored on weekends at times, and the op shop scene there was great. So we'd buy all these fabulous frocks and outfits and dress up and smoke pot and drink cheap plonk and have a ball. I guess that fueled the interest in dressing up.
Was Vanessa somebody that you wanted to be that you weren't as Tobin?
No, definitely not. I'm really happy I'm not a a drag trapped in a man's body or a woman trapped in a drag queen's body or whatever. It was a arbitrary occurrence. Watching television one day, saw a funny midday movie, a 70s movie, about a whole lot of aged models who'd got back together. One of the characters' name was Vanessa Wagner. Just thought, okay, that's going to be the name. I'm going to enter Miss Fair Day at Mardi Gras in '93, which I did in a really shonky outfit and shonky makeup. And I won that. And the crowd seemed to respond really well, and it blew me out just how you could have an audience in the palm of your hand and not only make them laugh, but maybe educate them.
Did you feel that you could do, I mean, is that something that you didn't feel you could do as Tobin?
No, I knew I could do that as Tobin, but I think the whole artifice of dressing up and the whole colour and movement of, say, drag or being a clown or having any character pulls a lot more attention, and I think has a lot more potency than just maybe being another opinionated person.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously with Vanessa Wagner's character sort of coming into being, and you quite sort of openly disclose your status as an HIV positive performer as well. Did the two coincide when you came out as Vanessa Wagner onto the scene? Did one inform the other?
I think it was a little bit of both, although looking back I remember in 1988 or 87 when I was studying dance in Adelaide, I was asked to do a little dance performance for a local AIDS organisation down there. And so I was already quite committed even before I found out about my own status to the cause of people living with HIV and AIDS.
How did you becoming HIV positive change the way you performed as Vanessa Wagner?
Well, I don't know when I seroconverted, but the first test I had came back positive, and that was around 1990-91. That changed my life. Up to that point, I was half dancing and half surviving being a bartender. Like most performers and actors in this country, you can't make a living just from your work. I had to take a rest for a while just to come to terms with it. I felt pretty freaked out. I was 26 at the time, or 25. Vanessa hadn't been invented at that stage, but I think having the character gave me, not something to hide behind, but it gave me a chance to talk about it, not from a real personal perspective.
Absolutely. So how did you, going into Vanessa, I mean, did you start taking up a lot more HIV community events then, or were you quite focusing on sort of being all things to everybody in the entertainment industry?
I've always just wanted to entertain people and make them happy, because I think we live in a pretty scary world.
And you do that very well.
Thank you. I can't remember when I first came out as Vanessa publicly. I could probably find out sometime, but I found that empowering, what an impact that had on other people. So I think the first time I came out, people came up afterwards and said, I can't believe how brave you were. It makes me feel great. I had no idea you were positive. I don't feel so alone. And so that basically immediately fed my desire to keep that information out there and be a role model for people. Because
Did you find any discrimination when you were out there and being positive?
No, not really. No. And I won't settle for discrimination. I mean, I won't fight back and scream abuse at people, but I'll certainly ask them to explain themselves and, if I can, help educate them.
And what about the positive side of things? Were people, well, positive as in encouraging, were people very supportive? It's always a bad use of that word, isn't it?
No, it was very supportive. I did at one stage, however, have a chat with my counsellor at the Albion Street Centre and said, look, I'm a bit worried, I'm hiding behind this character. I'm not sure if I am. And she said, well, why don't you do some stuff as Tobin? And that was probably around 95, 6. And I actually came out on stage at the Pride Centre in Sydney as Tobin, doing this little performance. And that was really scary. I was very nervous. And that coincided with a big full-page article and photograph in the Star Observer as me. And so that was freaky. Without the makeup on, because I could hide behind Vanessa and walk the streets generally without people recognising me.
Okay. Do you find... Oh, sorry, excuse me. Who do you prefer performing as, Vanessa or Tobin? I suppose Tobin's very new for you at the moment.
Well, at the moment it's nice performing or talking as Tobin because it's easier physically easier.
Do you forget who you are sometimes? Do you answer for Vanessa instead of Toby?
I sometimes channel Vanessa and she comes through, and sometimes if I don't feel like I'm focusing in the character of Vanessa, I might come out with a Tobin laugh or a comment and feel that I'm not holding the character as well as I could.
So you've got no evil sister in a skeleton, in a cupboard somewhere?
No, I try to keep them pretty separate, but it's obvious. It's like, the bulb underneath is Tobin, and then the flower is a combination of Tobin and Vanessa.
Some people might say you're the thinking man's drag queen. How would you feel about that?
I'd be very flattered. Although I think the thinking people's drag queen would be more PC.
I certainly want to go on to your appearance in Big Brother, although, that's a small part of, I think, what we know and love you for. Was that a good experience for you? Well, just, yes, a simple yes or no?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Just to be contrary. No, I had nightmares for about a week beforehand, before I decided to be on the show, because I was a bit freaked out about losing some of my privacy as Tobin. And as much as a show pony that I am, I also really like my downtime and my privacy. And so that was scary, but the show in a nutshell was a really good learning curve, and I thought it was great that they asked me. And I thought it was an opportunity to show Australia part of the diversity of this country.
Excellent. Well, we'll certainly talk more about that when we come back. You've been watching Face to Face, and we'll be back in a moment. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to Face to Face. I'm Suzy Malhotra, and we're interviewing Tobin Saunders. Welcome again, Tobin. How are you? Did you enjoy the break?
Yes, I feel refreshed and invigorated.
Good, pleased to hear it. I want to pick up on what we were talking about earlier with Big Brother. It consumed the nation for months on end, as it always does, and I'm sure many people out there aren't that into reality programs, but you brought a whole new meaning to the term reality, I think, in Big Brother. Why did you make the decision to go on to Big Brother?
Well, as a performer who has felt like they've been not ignored, but it's difficult to get onto mainstream television, particularly if you're an out HIV positive homosexual man who happens to have a female character or be a drag queen. So, that's pretty hard. They prefer blonde bimbos and talentless, ugly old men.
So Vanessa's none of those, obviously.
Neither of those. And it's about diversity in our mass media. And I thought, well, yes, this isn't the perfect program. I don't really watch it a lot. But I think that the program itself and the nation could benefit from me being on it. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I just thought that, I'm one jewel in the crown that is Australia.
Well, you're certainly up against some colourful competition, weren't
Even
you?
though I'm not a monarchist. Yeah, there was some interesting, not competition, but as the show progressed, it did start to feel like a bit of a circus act with people really pushing for points.
Absolutely. I won't ask the question that everyone asks, what was it like? Because I think people could actually see that it was a pretty intense experience for you.
Yeah, it was.
I think what will definitely go down in the public consciousness is your revelation to being HIV positive. Is that something that you set out to reveal before you came onto that programme, or is it one of those things that just happened?
It really did just happen. I don't know what happened, but, you had the hundreds of people in the audience and all the excitement of the first night, and I always like to make statements, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have a captive audience here. I know it's going to be possibly the biggest audience I'll have on television in the future or ever, and just came out. I thought, this is a charity gig. It's about kids with cancer. I don't want to take the focus away from that, but I also want to be an inspiration to those kids. And I do believe that we know that HIV is a disease that can be avoided. Cancer's not like that. I thought it'd be good to chuck in that I'm happy, alive, and a great role model, not only for other people with HIV, but for kids with cancer.
Of course. And very interesting, did you find that sort of making that disclosure changed your relationships with people in the house? I mean, I'm speaking in mind of your relationship with Anthony Mundine, because correct me if I'm wrong, there was, I recently read an interview where you were saying that you actually had the best relationship with Anthony Mundine.
Yeah, I did.
And most people would actually find that quite astonishing, because you seem to be such different people.
I think we're very different, but I think what we shared was underdog class. He's an Aboriginal man who excels in sport. I don't excel in sport, so I'm even more of an underdog. And as I said before, I'm not your typical Australian. So, we both had that in common. He was quiet. He wasn't the, full-on bravado man that I think he puts out, or that the media likes to represent him as. We just managed to chat about things. I got to talk to him about religion, I got to talk to him about sexuality, I got to talk to him about politics, and we both realised that we have quite strong ideas, and we both have, one foot in activism, whereas a lot of the other housemates, I found it kind of difficult to drag a gutsy conversation. And as much as I love a good fluffy chat over a beer and a squeal, there's a big part of me that always wants to learn more, wants to find out, and wants to change things for the better, and Anthony seemed to feel the same way.
Excellent. Were you prepared for the reactions that you got after that? What, for example, walking down the street, were people saying to you after they'd seen you on Big Brother?
It was a bit freaky, because being a performer, your audience is your currency, and being recognised is proof that it's working. That's cool as Vanessa, but as Tobin, it was freaky, but it was almost all positive. I live in a small town of 3,000 people. The local pub knows that I'm gay. They know I'm HIV positive, and they know that I have a character called Vanessa. I've had nothing but positive response from whether it be grandparents, kiddies. I was in Sydney recently, and there was some Pacific Islander boys on the bus in Marrickville, and they were kind of looking at me, and I thought, oh, here we go, I was a bit scared, because sometimes I react that way, and they were highly supportive, and people yelling from cars. So I think what it might have done is tweaked in people that, like maybe Sarah Marie did in the first series. She wasn't your classic size 8 bimbo, so she had a lot of respect from the public, who all thought, well, that makes me feel special too. And I think maybe my appearance on the show made people out there feel special, because really I, could be anyone really.
And it certainly did that. I think a lot of people were quite surprised at the two people that they saw on Big Brother.
Yeah, well, it was nice. They wanted me, but when they asked me to do the show, I said, there's no way I can do it as Vanessa the whole time. I live my life as a man, I perform as Vanessa. But they wanted Vanessa because no one would have had a clue who Tobin was. And even as Vanessa, a lot of people didn't know who I was until the show started. So it was good to see the regular male person underneath all that hoo-ha. And I think it also explained a little bit to the public, that I can live as a man and then dress up to perform. And
that seems to be something that you're obviously carrying on with you into your life now. I want to talk a little bit about the projects that you're involved in.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of the stuff that you have done in the past has always been as Vanessa, but I remember earlier in a conversation today you were saying that you'd actually like people to see you up on stage as Tobin.
Yeah.
What do you think you would be doing differently as Tobin to Vanessa? Or would you be the same people?
It wouldn't be a lot different, but I think it's just breaking down the stereotype. Like, I like to consider myself as an individual within any community that I'm supposed to be aligned with, whether it's the queer community, gay and lesbian community, HIV community. Still like to see myself as a total individual unit within that. And so therefore, being a drag queen or a gender illusionist or however you want to label it, I am a little bit of a, what do you call it? It's a classic image. It's like a predictable thing. Oh, he's a drag queen, so we'll judge him because of that. He's not an individual. He's doing what you're supposed to do in the gay community. So I think doing stuff as Tobin takes away from that, and it's a little bit rawer. It's a little bit realer.
Absolutely.
And
And what have you got coming up? What have you been doing in recent months, or what are you going to be doing?
Well, since Big Brother, there's been no real big paid work, which has been a bit disappointing because I need some money.
What about your community work?
Up in the Northern Rivers area, I hosted a regional young filmmakers competition called Open Slather. I did some guest judging for the Boys Own Bake Off at the Acon Northern Rivers. And just recently I worked out at Southern Cross University in Lismore to help raise money for a local Aboriginal group who are having an exchange with Indigenous Japanese people.
Oh, fantastic. And what about here in Melbourne?
And here in Melbourne, I am doing this, and I will also be doing an HIV treatments forum.
This is for people living with HIV/AIDS Victoria, and you've done quite a few of them now.
Yeah, I'm a regular and I love it.
So what do you do on those?
Well, we've coined a few terms, or I have. Edutainment. It's essentially about getting together with a group of positive people and their friends, admirers, supporters, health professionals, whether they be doctors, psychologists, nurses, and myself, and in a humorous way create debate and get feedback from people about what's happening with the virus and the treatments that they may or may not be taking. So it's education and health with a good mix of mirth and merriment, which I think is a deadly combination.
Excellent.
In the Aboriginal term, not in the verbatim term.
Okay, I suppose, as usual, running out of time to ask you all the wonderful things. I know that you're going to be at the Gay Games, you'll be featuring there, won't you?
Yeah, I think I'm doing voiceover.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll be seeing more of you as Tobin or Vanessa, do you think, over the next few months or years?
A bit of both. Co-hosting an award with Anthony Mundine at the Deadly Awards in Sydney at the Opera House in about 3 weeks. A few bits and pieces. I'll be throwing another one on my parties up in the Northern Rivers.
Excellent.
And what else? It's going a little bit quiet, but you'll be seeing more of me for sure.
Excellent, excellent. And will you be hanging around here in Melbourne for very long? Or?
I'll be here for a few days. I'm going to try to check out some of the nightlife that I seem to miss out on every time I come down.
Okay. You could make an appeal on television if you like that.
What if there's any babes out there who'd like to date me?
That's what I was giving you full licence. Sorry. Okay, and when are we going to see you next in Melbourne? Are you doing any more forums?
This is the only one I know of at the moment, but who knows?
Okay, well, I think we'll definitely be inviting you back down. I think there's another one at the end of the year.
Could be, maybe in December.
So we should be bringing you back down for that.
Yeah.
I think you should set up a partnership with Qantas and fly down regularly.
Yeah, well, I had some fantastic points with Ansett, but because of greed and corporate collapse, that all went out the window.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about what you're doing? Or?
Oh, no, I think what's great about my job is I basically travel a lot and meet a whole lot of people that I might not normally meet, learn a lot, and I guess people who come across me learn a bit as well. So I couldn't be happier. If I could make more money, I'd be really thrilled because I think I deserve it, and a lot of people out there make lots of money doing a lot less than I do. But aside from that, I'm thrilled.
Thank you very much, Tobin.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you, Tobin.
You're welcome.